What's up, everybody? Welcome back to episode number 9 of Nothing's Off the Table. This episode, we actually have Chad back with us. It's great to have him back. And we are joined also by Ricardo Tubbs. Some of you may know Ricardo from Throwing Down with Andy and Ricardo, our other podcast that we host. And our special guest for today, for this episode, is Kim Battle. Kim is a Chief Petty Officer in the United States Navy. She's been in for 16 years. She works in logistics. And we thought that we would do an episode honoring, celebrating, commemorating, if you will, Black History Month. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this episode. Just a side note, we were having some technical difficulties. As most of you know, we are in a brand new studio that is unfinished, so there's some sound issues that we're working on, but we're going to get them fixed and continue to bring you great episodes. All right, guys, thanks for listening again. You're listening to Nothing's Off the Table, the podcast where nothing, well, almost nothing, is too taboo to discuss. On Nothing's Off the Table, we give everyone a say. We may not agree with or even like the topic, but we're happy to give you a voice, listen to your perspective, and maybe offer our own. Nothing's Off the Table is a Madsis Productions podcast. Find us on Facebook, Instagram, and on iTunes. Welcome back to Nothing's Off the Table. I'm here with Chad. Finally, Chad is back. Hello, Chadwick. And he's playing with his guitar picks or something. I can hear that in the background. Anyway, we also are joined by Miss Kim Battle. Welcome, Kim. Hello. And, of course, Ricardo. Ricardo is here with us.
Hello.
And Connikins.
Hi, Connie. Hi, Connikins. Hi, Connikins.
Hello.
Just, I want everybody to know that I gave her that nickname.
Yes, you sure did.
Yeah. So this week I thought it would be a great idea if we got together and did a podcast to celebrate Black History Month, and kind of sparked the ideas as I heard some great, motivating, inspiring stories this week at work. Yeah, she said that for her, whatever. Anyway, some great, inspiring, and motivational stories from some of our sailors at work. And I approached Kim and I said, hey, would you be willing to do this? And of course, she was 100% on board until she realized what exactly it was we were doing. And now I think she's second-guessing that decision real quick.
She's probably saying, why am I even here?
Yeah, I know. That's right. By the way, Kim's not black. She's like from Norway or something. It's that with Ricky.
I didn't know Norway was in Texas, but okay, good job.
Yeah, it's just outside of Dallas.
That's right. It's right next to Paris.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
But,
all right.
So
you guys want to talk a little Black history?
Yeah, let's hear some Black history.
How about this? This is something that I actually just read this morning. So, did you guys know? Do you guys know who the owner of the Detroit Tigers is?
Right now, no.
I should say was. But he also owned Little Caesars.
Pan.
Oh, I read about that. Okay, keep going. Keep going.
His name was Mike Litch. And so he was the owner of Little Caesars. And he was also the owner of the Detroit Tigers. And he passed away. So there was this one lady you might have heard of. Her name was Rosa Parks.
Maybe, yeah.
Yes.
So Rosa Parks,
Yeah, I've heard of her.
Yeah.
Very famous, who lived in Montgomery, Alabama. After she lived in Montgomery, Alabama, she moved to Detroit, Michigan. And at the age of 81, some knucklehead robbed Rosa Parks. Probably didn't know it was Rosa Parks, but he robbed Rosa Parks. And then Mike Litch found out about it and moved Rosa Parks into a riverfront apartment and paid her rent until the day she died.
No kidding.
Mm-hmm.
I had no idea.
How about that?
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So
That's a stand-up dude right there.
And apparently he did all kinds of stuff like that all the time. So, and her rent, it wasn't cheap either. It was $2,000 a month for an apartment.
Chad's still in there scraping his pick, it sounds like.
Yes. So that's something that's really interesting for Black History Month, or something for you guys to think about.
That's pretty awesome. Hey, so one of the questions that was asked this past week was, what does Black History Month mean to you?
Well, it means it's the shortest month out of the year, so I think Black History Month happens to be in February.
How did I know that you were going to bring that up? How did I know?
Because you're not stupid.
Oh, okay. Fair enough. A little bit maybe. But anyway, so on the real, though, since I'm still getting the deer in the headlights look from Kim, Ricardo, what's it mean to you?
Black History Month?
Yeah.
I think over the years it's kind of actually changed for me, believe it or not.
Okay.
And I actually, and I'll probably get in trouble for that, but I think that it's time to get over having months and celebration days for different backgrounds. I think we should celebrate everybody's ethnic background every day of the year. So, but that's just me.
Well, I celebrate Asian American heritage every day.
You made some Asians, so.
At least half.
That's true.
Strong work.
Jackass. That's an interesting point, though. So I agree.
Well, I just think that sometimes we spend too much time trying to. I consider myself an American, and I consider myself. I think we all have to know. We're all smart enough to know that. For those who don't know history, if you don't study history, you're doomed to repeat it. So we do need to know our history, but at some point in time, people also need to move forward, but also respect different backgrounds and cultural backgrounds and the struggles that different people went through this entire great nation of ours. It certainly is Black American history is what we kind of tend to study here, but there's lots of other important people who did lots of that.
Wow.
Was that applause?
That was applause, as far as you know.
Woohoo.
As far as you know.
Wow.
Something was getting flushed, huh?
Apparently. So,
So we definitely, certainly should. I think we should applaud whatever I'm saying. Not blush it, but I certainly think that we should do. I think we should be respectful of people's backgrounds and struggles, and every day of the year instead of just 28 days out of the month. 28 days, man.
Well, if it's a leap year, you'd get 29.
I don't want to hear that.
Every other. Okay.
So, Chad and Ricardo both know. Of course, Connie does too. But I went to Hampton University, which is an HCBU.
Yeah, he was the only white person there.
I was not.
He was not the only one.
There was one other one.
There's one other one. Okay.
Just stop.
I lied.
I didn't see the dude get in the trash every day.
And his name was Kyle.
Kyle. But anyway, so I actually learned a lot because I didn't. Where I grew up down south, they didn't really teach a lot of Black history at all. In fact, shocking, right? Pretty racist where I was at when I was growing up. We're talking Mobile and Texas and Louisiana, but so I had an eye-opening couple semesters. Now, with that being said, I don't feel like I have any right or anything to speak about what it means to me. But whatever.
I think I've told both of you guys this story before, but I remember when I was in boot camp, there was this kid who was in Iraq next to mine, probably about 6, 7, or whatever it was, several weeks in boot camp. I don't even remember how long I was in boot camp. Did we go to boot camp for 11 weeks? Was that what it was?
I don't remember.
I believe you would be there that long. But please continue.
Probably longer than that, Chad.
Hey,
Hey, I love you. So.
Anyway.
Damn.
Don't you start with me, Connie. You didn't even meet the height line. Right, so here we go. So this kid, he was in Iraq next to mine, he wakes up in the middle of the night and he says, Tubbs. I'm like, I'm trying to ignore him. He's like, Tubbs, are you awake? I'm like, I'm awake now. And he's like, I got something I got to tell you. And I was like, what's up, man? He's like, all my life I hated black people, and I didn't know why. And I just want you to know, I think you're a pretty cool dude. And I was like, I said, what? He said, yeah, all my life I don't know, it just popped into my head. I was like, it's 2:00 in the morning, boy. And he's just like, I know, I just wanted to tell you, I think you're a pretty cool dude. I was like, all right, well, okay. And he happened to be from Alabama.
Shocking.
But, yeah. But he, he said, all his life he had no idea why. But, but that's one of the cool things that the Navy does. It takes people from out of wherever they're from and puts it into this brand new microcosm we call America, and then they figure out things that they did in life that were silly.
True story.
I will say that is on the plus side, but I think what it also does is if you've got those jackasses that are on the other side of it, their personalities tend to intensify with some folks, right?
Well,
I mean, it happens, but on all sides of the coin, regardless of race.
Yeah, well, yeah, there's probably a lot of truth to that, but I mean, it's definitely, as we all know, it's definitely a learned behavior. It's something that has to be taught.
100%.
Steve, what do you think coming up from beautiful Texas? What has it been like for you?
I came from a little country town, Paris, Texas, but my mom had always taught us. My dad, he passed away at a really early age, and my mom, she raised all of us, and she's always taught us, be respectful of yourself, and others will respect you, and always respect others, and don't get complacent, and always put God first, and just strive for the sky, and you're going to stumble and you're going to fall. Dust yourself back off and keep moving forward. So it doesn't matter where you're from, or the main thing is where you're going. And just like someone said about the months, just treat everyone the way you want to be treated. Doesn't matter which month it is of the year.
Let me tell you what, Kim's a rock star at work. I'm so glad. How long have you been there now? 2 months, maybe?
Almost 2 months.
Man, I'm so glad she's there. She's like, she's putting it down. She's taking charge and taking names, and she's paying me $20 to say all these good things about her.
And I tell you, every day it's a team effort from all of us.
That's right. But on the real, though, I'm glad you're here because you're helping out, doing great things. And she lets me get away with a lot of stuff, so even more reasons why I like her. But, Chad, what's Black... No, I'm just kidding. Never mind.
What's what?
I was saying what's Black History Month mean to you, but, whatever.
I just appreciate the fact that it bothers Ricardo that it's only 28 days. Quite honestly.
To be honest, it's some BS.
So... Ricardo, tell us that story that you had told Chad and I a while back about when you were driving down in Texas. You were going to a tournament or something?
Oh God, yeah. I mean, it is Black History, so.
Say it.
So I was driving to a tournament. Unfortunately, we had a friend of ours who was an amazing Jiu Jitsu practitioner. And it was me and a Mexican guy, a guy of Mexican heritage, and a young lady who was our babysitter who happened to be white. And so we were driving through one of the little towns in Texas that everybody's known for getting pulled over in. And it was B. That's the name of the city. It was B, Texas. Beville. And so we get pulled over. It's me. There's way too many brown guys in the front seat of the car. young white lady who's asleep in the back of the car. And she decides to wake up like right after we get pulled over. And this poor little cop is like, "Ma'am, are you okay? Are you okay?" And she's like, "Yeah, I'm his babysitter." She's like, "Are you sure?" "Yes, step out of the car, driver." I was like, "Oh, I'm going to die. Leave your taxi." But we didn't die.
You didn't die.
We
Clearly.
did not die, clearly. But it was a close call. It was a close call in Beeville, Texas. And anybody from Texas knows that you do not speed in Beeville, Texas. And I did not get a ticket because I was not speeding.
So why'd you? Well, obvious question. Why'd you get pulled over?
I was driving with different shades of brown. That's why. Different shades of brown. Chief Harris, you know what or Chief, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Instead of 50 Shades of Grey, it's 50 Shades of Brown.
Yeah. Technically 2 shades of brown. And actually, the one dude who was with me actually looks like he's Arabic, so we were all going down.
Oh, Jesus.
But that was Steve Tamayo. And so I just gave him a shout out. Now he's going to have a big head to match his big nose.
Wow.
He's got a big nose.
Man.
Oh, dude. His nose is so big that it can actually, I didn't even need a compass. It just uses nose. That's north south.
It's like
It's like a sundown.
yeah, built-in
His
sundial.
nose is like a sundown. He's like, "Hey, man, we're going to be late. There's a shadow on my chin."
Oh, you're stupid.
Yeah. But no, I mean, my God, man, there's been so many little things. But you know what? There's been so many positive things that we have had in the military. You know, that involving different ethnic backgrounds, not just African American or Black History Month, whatever you want to call it today or tomorrow. You know, I've worked with some amazing people of color in the military. I mean, even one of my favorite doctors that I worked with, her dad was like, if I recall correctly, her dad was like the first captain chaplain in the Navy, and he happened to be Black, Chaplain Barham, and this was Captain Pouget's dad. I believe she is the snow on one of the gators right now. And she was awesome. She was like one of my best mentors that I ever had, and with huge military history. And there's books about her dad too that people can find and read. And I felt like she was just a great mentor and a great leader. And I've had so many in the military. But it's not always about just struggle. It's, you know, there's a lot of people who've done really well in the military and moved on to doing great things. You know, I mean,
Ken's checking her phone. Look out.
She's looking
It's my
at me.
daughter.
Yeah. And then, of course, you know, you can't go wrong with, you know, I've never met Colin Powell, but I've read his books, and I would, on my bucket list is to sit down and have coffee with that guy and just talk to him about leadership. That guy is, I think everybody should read his books, and you will instantly become a better leader if you buy into the things that he tells you to do in his books.
Talk about somebody who's been through some crap, man.
Yeah.
So, Ken, we were talking in the khaki meeting this past week, and one of the funny things is our I'm not going to mention any names, but our equal opportunity person in the command is pasty, and clearly very uncomfortable with having to introduce our celebration for the month, and she was getting tripped up and choked up over everything, and kept calling it Black, African American, whatever, and dude, it was so funny watching her. She get red, beat red, And then the other guy that was supposed to be the other day that he flamed out on us. That's Tremaine. He'll pay for that later. But of course, he did a little presentation. It was actually really good. He did a couple. What do you call them?
Songs.
Yeah, he did a couple. They call them Negro soul hymns or something like that. And he's like, make sure you get
Spirituals.
Yeah, Negro spiritual hymns. And he's like, be sure to get the camera on her face when I say this. It was pretty funny. But Kim, how long have you been in the Navy now?
16.
16 years.
Well, matter of fact,
After this, she's hoping she
17
gets
years.
17, yeah, right. So what have you seen from when you first came in to where you're at now? Has it changed for the better? Is it the same? Is it the worst? What things have you seen in your time?
When I first came in, like now they have like the CMEO and all that. Like before, I don't never remember, anything like ever a CMEO at the commands or anything like that. So, and it's more apparent now that the military wants everyone to be treated equally, because everyone comes from all different types of backgrounds, and that's what makes us so special, because we all bring something unique to the table.
Did you not feel that way when you first came in?
I mean, I did, but I wasn't really, I guess it was kind of different because it wasn't, I guess I wasn't really aware of, aware of it back then.
I see. What about you, Ricardo?
What do you mean? What it was like for me coming in?
Yeah. So what did you experience any negative behavior towards you when you first came in, as opposed to coming up through the ranks and to where you're at now?
I think that there were certain times when there were certain things that were expected out of us, and certain old sayings that came up. I'll tell you a funny story. I went to field medical service school in Camp Lejeune, as you did, right, Andy?
No, actually, I went to Pendleton.
You went to Pendleton?
Yeah.
So I went to field medical service. That's why your game is weak.
Shut up.
But so I went to field medical service school in Camp Lejeune, and the boot camp there. Well, field medical service school was held at the boot camp that used to be the minority boot camp, right? And so I think I told you this. My uncles were Marines, and I'll never forget. My uncle was getting a little bit older. I told him, I said, "Where are you?" And I told him, I said, "Well, I'm here down in Camp Geo." And I told him the base that we're on. He's like, "Wait a minute, are they still segregating?" I was like, "God, no, they're not still segregating." So that was, but just to know that the history of the base that we were on, was where the minority boot camp was back in the day. So I certainly think that there were times that some people had some issues with, especially, I I did make rank pretty fast coming up, but I don't really think that it was always just racially backed. There were certainly times where there were things that were said, back when we first came in, Andy. Andy, you came in a little bit before me, but even with the Marines, like a black Marine was referred to as a dark green Marine.
Right.
That was kind of, I was like, that was one that threw me off. I couldn't stand that, really. Thought that was stupid. A Marine is a Marine is a Marine is a Marine. A Marine's job is to put, rounds down range and protect the country. I didn't think we really needed silly
Labels
like that. So, and I remember that we had a Sergeant Major of the Marine Corps, I believe, was at the time when that was just getting changed. I think his name was Alfred McMichaels, or Alfred Michaels. I think like Mike. And there was a message that came out that said, "Do not refer to, Black Marines as dark green Marines." It's pretty sad that we had to have a Marine Corps notice that came out that said that we needed to have that to happen. But I'm glad we did. But for me it was, and one of the things that's funny for me is, I'm a lieutenant commander now. I'm a former, enlisted guy, and a lot of times when I'm in the hospital, I will meet people from the World War II era, and I will get pulled aside by former sergeants or guys that made it up a little bit higher in rank, and they'll tell me, you're carrying a torch, because when I came in, I never saw a black officer before. So for me, there is a certain amount of pride, but I don't, I'm an officer first. I just happen to be over Dr. Hugh. But when somebody who's been through some things that I had never been through, and certainly I've faced a lot of racism growing up, and we've talked about this before on other podcasts, I think. You do kind of have to make sure that you carry yourself in a certain way. And you don't want to be that dude on the front cover of the Navy Times, or the Navy Crimes, as it may be.
Right.
But, I just found this article, and that, well, I told you guys it was off the top of my head, but this was an article by Navy.mil, and I can send you a link, and we can link it to the podcast. But this was talking about the Navy's first black captain who passed away, and this was Captain Parham. He was the Navy's first black sailor to be promoted to the rank of captain, and he died on April 16th of 2017. He was 87 years old. He was commissioned in 1944 as a chaplain.
Wow.
And he was promoted to captain in 1966. And he was the second black chaplain, or the second black captain in the entire Navy. The first chaplain captain. And he was born right here in Newport News. And there's several things here that talk about him, but I really think that it's he did a lot of great things while he was in the Navy, but I still think it's amazing that I had the opportunity to work with his daughter, May Puget, who's a captain, and really just hear her stories about what it was like, not only for her father, even have his book here that she gave me. A very interesting book. You can look it up and find it.
What are you doing there?
What am I doing?
Yeah. Like a lot of, no, it's like a lot of, I don't know, feedback or something. Anyway.
I don't know.
Is that you or Chad?
No, mine was on mute. Mine was on mute. Ease your rudder.
Ease my rudder, aye, sir. How about that?
Good to go.
Very well.
10,000 comedians out of work. That's all I'm listening to.
JOs. Fucking JOs.
Hey,
Well, I got a good chief here to calibrate me and train me. How about that?
but anyway, long story short, back in 1969, he earned his master's degree in divinity from the University of Pittsburgh Theological Seminary, and then he got a PhD from American University, and then he retired back in 1982 when Chad first joined the Navy. So,
But
that was great. But yeah, so I mean, I think that's also, that's just maybe that's a piece of Black history that people don't know about, and that's something that people can share and carry on from there. But I mean, listen. Nowadays, when I walk around, there's so many, especially at the hospital or on ships, there's so many, not just Black officers, there's so many minority officers, female officers, not just talking about, and I'm not just talking about the hospital, I'm talking about everywhere you go in the Navy. there's so many quote unquote minority officers now. Of course, overwhelmingly there are more white officers than there are minority. The numbers show that, but I think that the opportunity is there for people all over the place. They just have to seek it out.
Well, I agree with that. The opportunity is definitely there. I mean, shoot, just look at me. Somebody gave me a shot.
Yeah.
They should be fired, but...
Yeah, well, it's obvious the system isn't perfect.
Yeah.
Well, now he chimes in. Glad to see you awake. I appreciate that.
Yeah. So, but I mean, yeah, so it's interesting stuff, and I think that I think we have a great history in the military of being a whole lot more progressive than maybe some of the rest of society. We really don't have a choice. So, I mean, our chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff years ago, not long ago, was African American or Black American, not really African American. His family was from the islands, but the Army has been very progressive on what they do. The Marine Corps too, lots and lots of sergeant majors, and now they have generals, and it's just I think that we do a good job of promoting people to these. When you reach the level of admiral or even sergeant major, you're like the leader of a major corporation.
Mm-hmm.
You see, and you're entrusted to run that corporation, as it may be the military, the way you should, regardless of your color. Or you just get fired if you don't do a very good job.
No, that's true. That's very true. I kind of like what Kim was saying earlier. I don't, or was it you? I don't remember who said it anyway. But the whole, this shouldn't be a month for anybody, really. I mean, we should all just celebrate the fact that we're all Americans. And I think, we've come a long way in the country, but we obviously have a lot further way to go.
Sure. I'm going to be honest with you. As I sit in my home, which is a pretty nice home,
Tight.
and I come from pretty humble beginnings, I think that maybe some of the narrative that we see on the news or in social media is leading people to believe that there is such a huge racial divide in the United States, where I think that there's a huge racial divide in the United States in certain pockets of the United States. Mm-hmm. But, the more I look around, the more I see people getting along a whole lot better than anywhere else. But that's just me. Maybe I just see life through rose-colored glasses.
I don't know. I kind of, I may see the same. However, I haven't had any issues or problems, and if anything,
because you're white, dummy.
And listen, I'm exercising my right privilege, so knock it off. No, but especially I think it's mainly because of the Navy, though, the military.
Yeah, like I said, I've lived all around the world. I've lived in cities. I've lived here. I've lived there. I think that we certainly have a narrative that people are pushing that tries to make more people believe that there's a divide in the United States, and I think that's probably. I would like to believe that's more of an exception rather than the rule. Mm-hmm. Because I've gone all around the country and I've had no problems. Now, don't get me wrong. I've been places where I certainly have faced social injustice. When I went to college in Maine, I had issues up there with certain pockets of people. And even when I lived in Maryland, there were certain parts of Maryland where I would get pulled over all the time by the same cops. And all I was doing was going to class. Mm-hmm. But we're also talking about that was 25 years ago.
Sure.
So I think that there's a certain generational, 25 years is a generation, right? Is that about right?
Yeah.
Generation.
Yeah.
So I think that there's a certain amount of generational people who are in charge, and new generational people who are coming up who don't have those same ideals. So, and their ideals have changed. So I think that we carry on and we just hope that the next generation does a better job than the generation before them which is probably what you would think our parents might say, you know. So.
Well said. I couldn't have said any better myself.
You know, but I want to say there's a difference from 25 years ago to now, right? So I used to subscribe to the statement that the Navy is just a microcosm of society, and I still think that is largely true. However, see here, I told you that text is going to go off. I wasn't kidding, dude.
Yep, you're right. You're right. That's all right. So, fellas, I'd like us to say goodbye to Kim. She's got to roll.
I don't have to leave just yet.
She's okay. So
All right.
she's going to leave soon. About like 5 more minutes.
Well, then I'm going to shut up and let Kim talk.
Yeah, let's let Kim talk a little bit. She's
I
on.
want to hear what Kim's got to say.
You want to hear what Kim's got to say?
Gotst.
Nothing.
Kim, what do you think?
She said nothing.
Kim, what's your rebuttal to what I said?
I don't have any.
That was a nice way of saying it. I was just plainly and purely ignoring your ass the whole time you were
No, I
talking.
wasn't.
That's good. But no, I mean, of course, you know, Kim is a little bit younger than me too. I won't ask her how old she is, but she's been in, you know, less years than I have.
Mhm.
And
Well, I doubt she came in the Navy when she was 40. So please continue.
all right. Touche, monsieur pussycat. That's fine. I'll let that one slide today. Fast.
Hey, you know,
yeah, so,
I'll say this: you might actually take some flack for what you brought up earlier,
what's that?
Ricardo, about how how we shouldn't really have a month for everybody.
Well, I'm sure I will, but I don't really care. I think people who are relatively. I think having a historical month is almost a slap in the face for whether it's Pacific Islander Month, whether it's Women's History Month. To me, I think it's almost a slap in the face why we still. I understand the importance of doing it, right? I certainly do. But I also think that we need to get to a point where these months and these recognition days, which go as well, and I'll get flack for this, go completely ignored by many people, don't need to be useful anymore.
I'll tell you. Go
When
ahead.
I was a kid, Black History Month was like the greatest thing in the world. When I was, when we had Women's History Month, I thought it was awesome too. All the other months that came around. I mean, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't remember celebrating Pacific Islander Month until I came into the Navy. But I don't think we did that growing up. I'm not saying it didn't exist, but I'm just saying that I don't remember that happening. But to be honest with you, I just think that we all need to look at each other as human. And if we're intelligent, we're going to learn something about somebody's culture and somebody's past. That way we get a better understanding about them. But again, as the generations go, when we live here in the United States, it all boils down to American history. So whether it becomes an American who has to face injustice, that is American injustice, right? And if it happens to be a white person who faces the same injustice, it's American injustice, or whichever. So, I'm sure I'll catch flack for it, and somebody from some group will call me and tell me I'm an idiot. But it's my opinion. I'm entitled to it.
Well, I got to tell you, I think, and again, I may catch flack for. I probably will catch flack for this, but it's my opinion as well. To me, it just feels like these different months, they're like checking the box to say, "Hey, look, we're not racist. Look, we're doing this. We can't be racist. We're doing this."
Like I said, largely unnoticed.
Yeah. So, but I agree. I like. Well, you guys know me. I'm a people person, so I talk to anybody at least once.
Yeah. Then they never talk to you. But I mean, but you know what? I mean, the thing is too is like, I remember growing up, my mother telling me, you should never judge anybody by the color of their skin,
Right.
because I promise you that whatever color that person is part of your family. Because my family is D, all of the above. My family is D, all of the above. Like many people in the United States, our ethnic background is not just black. It's not just Hispanic. It's not just this. Like, we're Welsh, believe it or not. How about that?
How is your mom, by the way?
My mom is great. She's here right now. She's downstairs.
Is she really?
Yes.
Till I say hello.
Hello, give her a kiss for me.
Yeah, tell her we miss her.
She loves her little white sons. She loves them a lot. But only on the Welsh side.
Yeah.
Chad, you're out of luck.
No, I actually, so it's funny. Shelly's sitting 5 feet away from me. She's doing genealogy stuff. She's got my family traced back to like 16 something.
But you can't take our freedom!
Yeah, dude, he and I were homeboys. So apparently my family started all of Massachusetts.
Wow,
That's pretty much how I'm saying it.
It's great.
We can go all the way back to England.
That explains that explains Wareham,
Right.
in Massachusetts, and Framingham.
Is that because they can't pronounce anything, or is that how it's pronounced?
You shut your stinking mouth. You leave me alone. Don't make me grab my car keys and come over there and beat you on my head.
Don't you wear those to work?
No, man, my car keys, they stop my car.
Anyway.
I would be more upset. If I were you, I'd be more upset about being from Boston than I would be about being black.
I would never be upset about being black. Shut up. I'm going to be nice on this podcast.
Very well.
That's a first.
I'm going to be real quiet on this podcast, and I'm going to kick your ass the next time we roll.
That was going to happen anyways.
I have 3 words for you, Chad. Knee on belly.
Ooh.
I ain't cleaning those mats afterwards.
Oh, Jesus.
What's that smell? That's colon, son. That's
Cologne? No, colon.
Oh, my God. Colon.
Kim, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Yeah, they're actually tame today, believe it or not. Which is surprising. I don't know what's going on.
Hey, Kim, you need to stop talking so much.
Yeah.
All right, so... But no, I mean, listen, I'm sure I'll catch flack for what I said. And there'll probably be some groups that, there'll probably be like a visual in front of my house. When it really comes down to it, we really need to stop. If we want to move forward, of course we need to respect the past.
Mhm.
But if we really truly want to move forward, then we need to look forward and stop worrying about, all the chaos from 200, 300, 400 years ago. Yes, it happened 200, 300, 400 years ago, but the people who did that stuff 200, 300, 400 years ago, or 200 years ago, or maybe even 70 years ago, most of them are dead.
Yep. True story.
Yeah, most of them are dead. And they'll take that to their grave, and that will be their legacy. And if that's the way they want to live, and that's the way they want eternity to be, fine.
Mhm.
But we have to look forward. We have to respect the past, but we have to look forward. And if we all start looking forward and start judging people by the content of their character, then we'll probably do a whole lot better.
Indeed. And people can change. Your boot camp story is a prime example of that,
Absolutely.
Especially when it's a learned behavior. If it's a learned behavior, it can be unlearned.
Yeah. There used to be this one commercial. I don't know if you guys remember it, but it was like the only time it doesn't matter who your neighbor is. It was 2 kids, like a a brown kid, a white kid, and a black kid sitting next to each other in the nursery at the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it was like the only time it doesn't matter who your neighbor is.
Yeah.
And I remember that commercial, always stood out to me because after that behavior is learned.
Yep, absolutely. That's true. 100%.
I mean, I like Chad.
Cheers.
Well, that's understandable.
God.
Yeah.
Well,
And Chief, you seem pretty cool too. You have a lot to say. I feel like
Thank you.
she's good people. She talks a lot more than this at work.
can't wait to meet you.
Yeah.
I know.
I'm coming by there next month.
Awesome.
I'm going to come by your work,
Yes, sir.
and where's LSC at? I got some stuff I need to order.
No, LSC, I want you to listen to his voice. Close your eyes, and he looks exactly like that. Wherever you imagine.
All right, that's funny, man. I ain't gonna lie.
Oh, that's great.
Exactly what you imagine.
That's the funniest comment of the day right there, for sure.
Right now, Chad is smiling and shaking his head, going, "He's right."
I got nothing, man. I got nothing.
As a matter of fact, I bet he's got his arms crossed right now, shaking his head.
Got him, it stuck out.
Coming a little bit, I ain't gonna lie.
So, any other input you'd like to give us, Kim?
No.
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 No, I'm just ready to get off this show and put these headphones away and get the hell out of this place.
I think it's about time that I have to.
You're about to ready to change another diaper.
Yeah, I think it's about time to go change another diaper.
All right. Well, this sounds like
I'm gonna go change my own. So
depends. It's a wonderful garment, but
I do have something to say.
Yeah.
In order to make this world a better place, we all just have to love one another and respect each other. Respect one another. You know, and just remember to always stay humble and stay grounded. And that's it.
profound.
Well said.
Yeah, very profound. Why couldn't you have said that earlier? Just kidding. I'm just kidding. All right. Well, hey, look. Let's go ahead and wrap it up here, guys. Thanks again for being on the show once again, Chad. Welcome back. Finally.
thank you, sir.
Yeah, it's about time. But glad to have you back. And we've got some other great shows lined up. Some interesting topics. We've got a major case detective that's going to come on and talk to us. We've got a gentleman who's a psychologist that has worked with a lot of sexual offenders in the prison system. So he's got some pretty crazy stories. So we've got another fellow that's a former Jehovah's Witness that's going to come on to us and talk to us about what his life was like during those times.
In and out of that environment.
Yeah, absolutely. But, all right, hey, everyone, thanks again for listening, and we will definitely talk to you guys next time.